Hello everyone, this lecture is about communication and your job seeking. When you are job seeking, it is a form of written communication with an employer. And we've already had one lecture on communication, but this one is going to be specifically about job searching. So in the workplace, almost every problem is a result of miscommunication. So if you can learn to communicate effectively and advocate for yourself, it's one of the best skills you can have to make sure that your workplace is an enjoyable place. When communicating in regards to looking for a job, that involves a letter and a resume. And advocating for yourself, the resume can advocate for your skills and advocate for you getting a job. So they're very important skills that we're going to talk about in this lecture. So again, this is your very first communication with an employer. And the first communication will include a letter of application or a letter of interest and your resume. And so this is where you make your first impression on everyone. The way it looks, whether there's spelling and grammar errors, whether it's neat. All of those things are a first impression before they even meet you. They are getting an impression of you from your work. For that reason, everything you do in this letter resume should be perfect. So the very first thing we're going to talk about is the letter of application or the letter of interest. What you're trying to do in this letter is highlight your skills as they relate to the job. And the reason you're doing that is to make them want to read your resume. When they finish reading your letter, they should say, I need to see this person's resume. That is the point of having this letter. Make sure you use words from the job description. Before computerized employment strategies, people would skim your resume and letter, and they're looking for words from the job description. Now what happens, there are computerized programs that do this. And so the employer types in the key words and phrases they're looking for. The computer then will scan through every letter and resume that's submitted, and it will kick out any resume or letter that does not have a certain number of the words from the job description. So this means every job you apply for, your resume and letter will change slightly so that it matches the job. Having considered all of that, your letter of interest or your letter of application should have 3 paragraphs, and your letter is most likely only 1 page long. You need to introduce yourself and why you are writing in the first paragraph. The first paragraph is only 2 or 3 sentences long. You need to be thorough about who you are and why you're writing, and you need to be specific so that it only goes 2 or 3 sentences. The second paragraph of your letter is the longest part of your letter, and it highlights up to 3 things from your resume. And the reason you're pulling items from your resume, remember, is because the purpose of this letter is to make them want to read your resume. So if the second paragraph says, as you review my enclosed resume, you will find, and you start talking about 3 main issues in your resume or 3 main skills or qualities or experiences, that's going to say, well, this person sounds really interesting. I have to read their resume, which is your goal. Then the third paragraph, again, only 2 or 3 sentences long, summarizes why you're the best candidate, and then includes a thank you statement for them taking the time to review your information. So again, the purpose of your letter is to get them to read your resume. So let's say you had a perfect letter, and now we're moving to the resume. So the purpose of the resume is to get an interview. And again, because the computerized systems are going to kick out resumes that don't match the job description, one of the biggest things you need to do is to make sure that your words that you're using in your resume match the job description. And we will look at that in this lesson. Remember that these resumes and letters represent who you are. And I just mentioned that when we talked about this is their first impression of you. If there are spelling and grammar errors in your resume or letter, it's highly likely you will not be interviewed. And the reason is, the thought process is, If you're giving me sloppy and incorrect work before I've hired you, it will only get worse after I hire you. And so anything that's submitted as a resume or letter that's not perfect, you're probably not going to get an interview because they're going to question the quality of your work and your work ethic that you submitted something that was not correct. It should be visually appealing, and that means the font needs to be 11 point or greater. It means the margins around the whole outside, top, bottom, left, and right should be 1 inch. The spacing between sections should be different than the spacing within sections. You might have the headings highlighted, not highlighted, but bolded, so they stand out more. And you want to make sure that it's very easy to read because of the font you're using. You also need to make sure you're highlighting skills and experiences that you have and education that relate to the job. Remember, your eyes go from left to right, so everything should be aligned to the left. If you have all the items I said before about the font and the margins, it will not be cluttered. And your letter and your resume must match your job that you're applying for. A key issue here is you're trying to sell yourself to show them that you are the best candidate for the position that's been advertised. So I've talked about some things that are right and things that shouldn't happen. I'm going to look at some basic guidelines and examples. So this is a basic item. The letterhead at the top of your resume and your letter should be the same. They should have your name, perhaps your city and state, your personal email and your TU email at this point, and phone numbers where you can be reached. The reason you want letterhead at the top of both your letter and your resume is if they're looking at 100 resumes and they pull 10, it's much easier for them to find your information to contact you if it's at the top of the page. If it's not at the top of the page and they're looking at all these resumes, they might just put yours on the side and say it's too hard to find this person, let's move on. These are possible sections of your resume. No two resumes are exactly alike. There are no correct or incorrect headings for a resume. It depends on who you are, how young you are, what you're doing, what you're applying for. And also you could ask Google to show you some sample resumes. Google is a form of AI, and an appropriate way to use AI here is to ask Google to show you what are some samples of resumes. Another thing you can do with AI is to go to a chat AI, like ChatGPT or the other ones that are out, and ask it to give you a list of possible headings for a student who's is going to graduate soon. What would be some good headings for a resume for that type of person? So those are all ways to get some headings. And then when you see the headings and you look at what you're putting in your resume, then you choose the ones that are best for you. As I said before, we read left to right. So the most important items in your resume should be to the very left and then progress. And so there's 3 things here. The first one shows the job title first, then the company, then the date of employment. The next one is date of employment, job title, and company. And the last one is company, dates of employment, and job title. Stop and think a minute. Which of these shows the most important item first? If you said the first one, that is correct. When people look at your resume, the thing they're most interested in is what your job title was at each of the places that you put in your resume. This is an example of justifying to the right at the top and justifying to the left at the bottom. At the top, the right-hand side of the lines are equal. They're aligned, and that's what justified means. Justified means alignment. So because we read left to right, justifying to the right is not a good idea. The other thing about justifying to the right is that the computer programs often miss anything on the right-hand side of the page. So if you are justifying to the right, the computer programs are likely to miss those items. and then kick you out of the pool. The bottom shows a left-hand justification. Both of these say the same thing about the font, the margins, and the type of font you should use. So these both say the same thing, but the one at the bottom is left justified. It's easier to read because we read left to right in this country. Another issue to be aware of in a resume are some grammar issues that occur often. One of the biggest issues in a resume is the concept of parallel statements. And we're going to look at what parallel statements look like and don't look like, so you can consider that as you're writing your resume. So this is an example of parallel issues within a job. So let's say you write that you're a community health outreach worker at this location for these dates. And this is the correct order because the most important item, what your job title is first. So then the question becomes, why is the section under it not parallel? And what's not parallel is the fact that the verbs must all be the same tense. So let's go to the next page. Some of the verbs are past tense, some of the verbs are present tense, and some of them are more future tense. Also, you want to have the first word be the same part of speech. So we have verb, verb, adjective, verb, adjective, noun, verb. They all need to really be verbs, and they need to be the same tense. So that's how you know this is not parallel. Here, and this is where it shows that they're not the same part of speech. We just said this. It color codes which are verbs, which are nouns, and which are adjectives. Now, you can change tenses from job 1 to job 2, but within a job, all the verbs need to be the same tense. Whether it's past tense or present tense, it doesn't matter. Within a job, all the verbs must be the same tense. So here's another issue of issues with parallel statements, and this is a special skills section. And there's a lot of items listed here. CPR certified, certified CNA, outstanding, strong, works, have, motivated, conversational, have advanced Excel, skilled in creative design. Those are special skills, but they are not parallel. So the same process works. Are they all the same part of speech? Some of them are nouns, some of them are verbs, some of them are adjectives. They all need to be the same. The first word needs to be the same part of speech. An easy way to know if they're parallel, in the special skills section, usually you are completing the sentence starter of I have or I am. Okay, so I have CPR certified, I have certified CNA, I have outstanding communication skills. That is correct. I have a strong work ethic. I have works well. I have extensive experience. I have motivated and self-directed. I have conversational Spanish and Italian. I have advanced Excel skills. I have skilled in creative design. Some of these answer I have, but some of them finish the comment of I am. I am CPR certified. I am a certified CNA. I am motivated and self-directed. I am skilled in creative design. Whether you're finishing the sentence starter of I have or I am is not relevant. They need to all be the same. This section is not parallel. When it's parallel, it's easier to read. So if you wanted to switch it to I am, you would say things like I am certified in CPR. I am certified in CNA. This one doesn't work with I am. I am motivated and self-directed. I am skilled in creative design. Some of them do not work with I am. Let's see how many of them work with I have. I have CPR certification. I have certification as a CNA. I have outstanding communication skills. I have a strong work ethic. I have experience with diverse communities. I have extensive experience in community outreach. I have motivation and self-direction. I have I am trilingual with conversational Spanish. I'm sorry, that's wrong. I have conversational Spanish and Italian skills. I have advanced Excel skills. I have creative design skills. So whatever you choose, I am or I have, they just all have to answer this. They have to finish the same sentence starter. If they all finish the same sentence starter, it means that the first word in every line is the same part of speech. And this is what I just went over. How many of these say I have and how many of them say I am? They all need to finish the same starter. Either I have or I am. And then the other thing that we talked about is some of these are nouns and some of them are verbs and some of them are adjectives. So the verbs, certified, works, and have, different tenses. Some are nouns and some are adjectives, like outstanding and strong. Those are adjectives. And you could have adjectives, although you could have the first word in every row be an adjective. But just again, to make it parallel, the first word should be the same part of speech and the same tense. And the easy way again to check to see if they're parallel is to see, do they all finish the same sentence starter, either I am or I have. And we just talked about how to fix these, but you need to start to think about, could you fix something that's parallel? When you're creating your resumes, you need to make sure that all of your sections are parallel within themselves. So that concludes this lecture on resumes. Please make sure you read the information in Blackboard before you begin to write your resume so you get all the points possible.